Hello everyone, welcome to the channel, which exists as a way for me to process and discuss my pathological relationship with Quentin Tarantino. He's put me in a state psychologically, right, which you can always deny because he's a sick, evil man, right? Quentin is one of the most powerful clairvoyant psychics in the world. Certainly the most powerful in show business. Right? I'm the most powerful clairvoyant of the millennial generation. And when I didn't bend to his psychic whim at a screening of Jackie Brown at De Niro Con last year, he and the people around him entered into a covenant to compel me to madness. Right? So this channel exists, right, because for a myriad of reasons, but it's twofold. Right? The first of which is that Production Weekly has announced that Quentin Tarantino will be filming an untitled project with Stacey Sher and Sony this December, which is the movie Critic. It's the same movie, right, which has my intellectual property in it. That's why he's done everything that he's done, right, to get my scene for free, right? And then when I die, right, when I blow my brains out, he can say, that's what happens when you try to not give the movie people what they want, right? That's what happens when you don't give the black magic hierophant what he wants, right? And so the second thing that's occurring, right, and they're both intimately connected, right, is that he's getting a Lifetime Achievement Award at the end of September with the Burbank International Film Festival. Hollywood Reporter Scott Feinberg will be doing a career retrospective. And while he's got his monkey suit on, he's going to make sure that I'm as miserable as I can be, right? And so these are two primary reasons why the channel exists. And make no mistake, he'll do the same thing every day. He's filming that movie, right? Why do I say that? You know, what do I mean when I say I'm in a state, right? That he's, right? Science demands that you accept one miracle, the Big Bang, and then everything else falls into place. And so we find ourselves in similar straits here with regards to this channel and the movie critic and everything that I'm saying, right? The one miracle, right, which isn't a miracle, I've been explaining, right? Psychic scientist, right? Is that Quentin is a clairvoyant who remote views people, right? The psychic phenomenon is a latent bandwidth which resides in all of humanity, right? In all of life. Right? This is my point, right? This is the point that I've been making, right? That life is a psychic intellectual reflex, a pressure, right? Against, right, the firmament of space by a divine abstract intellectual principle, notion, quality. Right? So, the highest levels of said expression have the adept behaving like God, right? And so you can heal the sick, right? And we call that white magic, right? And you can destroy as well. We call that black sorcery, base sorcery, right? The things that people refer to as psychic, right? Clairvoyant, right? Telepathic, right? Thaumaturgy, remote viewing. These are the same things that people refer to as magic and sorcery in centuries past. This logic is unequivocal, right? It's not up for debate, right? They're the same things. They're not similar things. They're the same things, right? And so, right? I had a revelation yesterday, and it's been there all along. It's been right there, right? What do we know about clairvoyance? Like, what do skeptics say about clairvoyance? Right? That they say, oh, it's cold reading. And I say that I agree with them a lot of the time. A lot of the time. Even legitimate people with a real gift. 9 times out of 10, what they attribute to clairvoyance is really just, you know, subtle inference. Right? So, the inference here being that, right, as far as like my frustration, like my fear, right, my anxiety, right, being that he didn't do all of this. Right? And I, you know, hand on the Bible, right? I don't have the Bible with me, but there's one somewhere in here, right? Everything that I'm saying is true, right? You ain't got to believe it, right? You can, right? right? You can fucking believe science, right? You can say that science has all the answers and this guy's talking out of his ass, and that's fine, right? But what I'm saying, right, is that he didn't do all of this, him and the people around him, right, for us to exist in this way for 20 years. That's, right, it's a weird, sick, pathological relationship, right? Where our every thought is filtered through the other, right? And so in that way, right, that's how the revelation came, right? Because we're so close. And it's always been right there. It's always been right there, right? And true, he stole all of mine as well, with the same tactics. And when he did, and he told me to come there and scream at the top of my lungs, I gave him everything that he wanted, right? That curse that I put on whomever, badass cinema, right? A projection of his mind, right? Savage. And of course, it's not a real curse. Now we're really playing the curses game. But my point is that, right, I trusted him in this way, right? Because I didn't trust him at Tribeca. I didn't want to trust it, and I felt bad, right? And so he took the letter that I wrote him that was honest, right? That said, these are my shortcomings, these are my failings, right? And threw me right into the bus anytime I wrote someone to try to help us reconcile. And he laughed his ass off the whole time, knowing that Trey Anastasio and David Berlinski were both like, oh, wow, how unfortunate. How unfortunate you have this crazy guy. Right? I don't know that they believe that anymore. Right? But my point is that, right, he and I, right there, right, forever, not for a little while, not for a week. No. Doesn't work that way. The two of us, right, the four of us, the five of us, right, we're bound together beyond all space and time, right, through to the edges of eternity, right? So I've written a novelization of my experiences. We're reading through the novel. We're talking about the writing. We're talking about the nature of reality, right? So, right, the thought of us, right, existing in this way is so ridiculously sick, right, that it's not, right, like my point, before I begin reading on the novel, we're talking about the novel, we're talking about the nature of reality. My point is that it didn't have to be this way, right? That, like, if he was reasonable, right, then, right, when I heard him at Tribeca, right, it didn't have to descend into this black magic evil, right? Because he doesn't have to control the mind of everyone that comes into his life, right? And now he does, right? We both possess each other's minds. That's what it is now, right? He's got all the money, but I got all the wisdom, right? Right? He could have just produced the non-disclosure agreement, paid me $5 million if he's using the scene, paid me $1 million if he's not, and then that would have, right? That would have been it, right? I would have never had this channel, right? I would have never been talking about it, right? I would have played a little Hamlet and had a little life. Man, maybe that's still true, right? Because, again, he's at his breaking point psychologically. And so I live in palpable fear constantly, right? That's why I'm drinking right now, right? That he's going to send people to murder me, because if I'm dead, he has no more problems, right? And of course it's true, right? Whomever goes first, we're going to hover over the other. As a psychic phantom, we'll haunt their dreams, right? We'll see them everywhere we go. We'll see the other. By his design, not by mine. Right? So, I'll pick up where I left off. Building a coven. As I sit under a gas station awning, across from the Goodwill Donation Center and store I slept behind last night and stole some clothes and shoes from this morning to avoid the steady calm rain falling on the world beyond the awning, I am reminded of Willow's wickedness yesterday. Lisa at one point called her a miserable bitch. to which she called her an ugly bitch, to which I said, don't listen to her. She's the only bitch in this formula. To which she replied, yeah, and you still love me, ha 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 ha, in pure tones of sarcasm and sass. What a bitch. I want to keep writing, but the rain is too dangerous. The potential for destruction of my soul's work looms like a rusted guillotine blade. So I close the book and stash it away. I'll likely walk to the library, which is 43 minutes walking from here. The sun is rising through a perpetual gray blanket over the blue. I intended to leave, but in seeing an outlet right next to where I am sitting, I plugged my phone in and will let it charge. The employee came and opened the door, acknowledged me, if sidereal, and went back inside, which I interpret as approval or acceptance. Life feels very bleak right now. I'm assured everything's good. I wanted clean clothes and I got them. I wanted a plug and I sat down next to one. So I suppose I'll let my phone charge and set out into the rain towards Hamlet and my coven of witches. Willow played Neil Baby's old man yesterday, and now unconsciously I sing it, and I lament how much of me she controls. I gave a bitch my whole heart for nothing. The work crowd filed into the station to get their Red Bulls, coffee, Slim Jim, whatever other necessities blue-collar hicks require. Smokes, of which I could use one, to get through their simple-minded lives with their sanity intact. If 9 o'clock comes and the weather has not improved, I'll walk to the library. I stole some internet from the ether and watch a clip of Elon discussing abortion, about how having kids is the greatest thing you can do. And as it was finished, I became upset. Willow immediately apologized, saying, I'm sorry, Ethan, I feel like such a whore. As I degenerated into tears, I was asked by a nice black lady bus driver with a bull ring in her nose if I had a light. So I wiped the snot and tears from my face and told her yes, and asked if she had a cigarette. To which she gave me 4, and we had a nice moment of cajoling to the world, then versus now. I made a joke about smoking cigarettes with my bus driver, which is true. I knew her personally for many years before she started driving the bus. Her name is Sherry. Now she works at the Toyota plant in Huntsville. Her son, Tyler, I would allege to be my first friend. We no longer speak. As the driver left, Annabella commented on how I'm going to be blessed all along the way because everyone sees my heart and how good I am. And that how they only had to relax and talk to me and we could have figured it out. And she tells me, we still can. But it hurts so much to consider. Now, despite having the most interesting life in the world, I wish she had thrown me away like her father had. He tells me, no one wants that. It's all towards something. Hamlet, the journalist, you just gotta chill. Get to New York with nothing. I have to know I am alive for a reason. Though now, huddled against a gas station to avoid getting rained on, my millionaire fathers on both coasts have never felt more distant. The weather is supposed to be bad all day today, with the next few days being nice. I suppose it behooves me to walk to the library, to use today to rest my weary body. Having no typical method blanket to warm my entire body while sleeping, each night I adopt this absurd posture wherein I crunch my legs into my jacket by bending my knees all the way in, and have taken to stretching them back out, rotating to the other side, and adopting the position once more, so my body at least seems to stay warm. It is breaking my body, night by night, a little more each sunset, and I worry I'll push myself to the brink of death, or outright to demise, all for the sake of my father's dreams to see me save literature. I'm not, Willow decries, a whore pregnant guppy, and I say, I'm not all the hateful things you've espoused about me. And she says, I know. And I want to reassure her because I want everyone to be happy. But she has gone out of her way to be miserable, to be hateful, to be cruel, to be childish with forces she obviously has never understood. For me to write Red Niche, Dash-Davushki, and David Solinsky and tell all of them that I was in love with Willow, that we were in love, and for all of them to write her father, the most reclusive author in literature, Niche, to do all of it, the poem, the sonnets, and still refuse to see me, to actively engage in the most wicked witchcraft solely to break me, my spirit, my psyche, suggests she really is more akin to a child. And though I always felt she was childish, I now see nothing worth teaching, nothing worth being involved to see improve, nothing worth loving with absolute devotion. Though admittedly I find it equally difficult to say it really was for nothing, that she introduced herself and concerned herself with me so zealously all this time in this special subtle way for nothing. And look beyond Willow. How can I have a future without her? She yells as I write, there is no future for me without you. We're all so moved, Annabella tells me, while you're writing. And as I begin to cry, she adds, how could we let you write all this and simply throw you away? I have a thought, as Eliester says, don't say it. You've taught us all so much. And you're going to play the role, set the camera on fire. I'm excited to see it. We all are. We just have to put some time between you and this thing Willow has done, which she regrets, we all know, immensely. Now, she sees how meaningless and cruel it was. Sitting, now standing outside of the gas station, I am reminded of another gas station I was at some years ago, where a young woman overfilled her gas tank, and it spilled out all over the concrete, and she was crying so profusely because she didn't have the money to pay for it. I recall wanting so badly to help her, but I couldn't, because I had no money either. Then, as now. I want to say it too was in Tennessee, though perhaps I am mistaken as to locale. The weather has subsided. It still rains, but I suppose there is no time like the present. I sat outside of the Kroger across the street from the library after purchasing a load of garlic bread and some cinnamon rolls, watching Oliver Sacks for roughly 1 hour before travailing to the library across the street, where I now have taken a seat with a desk and have assumed the writer's posture once more. While inside the grocery store, I had a nice exchange with an older woman. Southern accent so thick you can paint with it. Black, mixed, I would guess, but very sweet, offering advice on how to stay dry, including keeping dry socks. To which she proceeded to regale to me that she would always change her socks 8 hours into her 12-hour shift as a nurse. Though she admitted, being older, she no longer works such strenuous hours. And I think of my mother, and I wonder if I'm doing enough. All the while, watching Oliver regale to an enthralled Seattle audience tales of neurology, I have, in truth, already heard him discuss. I am bombarded from both coasts with psychic magic. Willow professing, I see how wonderful you are. There's no bullshit in you. Annabella beginning to weep laments. He's cold and afraid that he's lost his mind. Clay assures me, someone will see you, whole. You shine too bright. Elizabeth says, someone will help you. I'll be good to you. No one made me feel beautiful until you. You're so good to me, and we haven't even met. How can it be? Annabella chides Willow. That older woman helped him because she saw the kindness that you're supposed to see. And Willow tells me she wants me to write. She wants me to use this gift I have. They all say they intend to purge the evil from my psyche. Thoughts of necessary isolation, of hermitage, of loneliness, of feeling apart from everything yet still within it. I am weary and high on food. I want to close my eyes, but worry I will be plagued by psychic constraints. Visions of evil sent to incite my rage out of malice, boredom. I don't know. What else? But there's plenty of reasons, I have no doubt. I suppose I'll try to read the Canterbury Tales until I drift off in the library to hypnagogia. My journey has only just begun, and I must conserve my resources. I offer prayers, first to the world, and lastly for myself. All those I care for, then everyone else, and lastly me, for whatever might remain, which, if omnipotent, is still all and will be forever so. I looked at a beautiful coffee table book of Leonardo, was struck by the Annunciation, as well as the Adoration of the Magi, the same painting mentioned in the Sacrifice. Thereafter I transitioned to the Canterbury Tales, and as I sought the New York Public Library book out of my overstuffed, falling apart, disheveled black backpack, Willow pleads, I understand how tired you are. Please close your eyes. I promise I won't infect your dreams. I'm crying as I write it. I know we both are. Perhaps not. Perhaps all of us are. Distance is illusory. Mind is omnipresent. I am that I am. I thought of my coworkers, former, I should say, while cowering from the rain this morning in front of the gas station. Pete, his name is. I heard them all talking about me. Pete wondering how I'm doing. I know it must be real, as I always loathed that job and have nothing in common with any of them. But they think of me. They discuss me. And my wizard ears stretches round about the earth in 40 minutes. Well, I must continue worrying until it is no longer merely a psychic phantom. As I try to continue the squire's tale, I recall my curse, the tape I mean, and am distracted. Alistair tells me, I'm watching it. You know I'm watching. All of it has become an archive, its own archive. Annabella says, you've come to mean so much to us, and I feel the same way. But the cost in full still is unknown to me, and I worry my ambition and spiritual family's expectations are higher than my mortal body can endure. I am assured and feel that it is all worked towards something. Hamlet, the journalist, an elusive coven of witches. I'm the only one, they say, and I know they must be right. Though now, with no shelter from the rain once the library closes, which to be clear is 8 hours and 40 minutes from now, makes me all the more unsure. Please, I'm told, don't be upset. You're loved. That it, the archive, the collection, has become Alistair's most cherished possessions. That everyone I have written cherished their letters because they show that all hope for the future is not lost, though my future in the immediate has never seemed more tenuous and dangerous. I hear Alistair discussing how I'm the guy with the producers. He tells them they don't know how much I've done to show my remorse, and that we'll do it middle of next year, and I hear that they trust him. Willow tells me that she wants me to play the role. She wants me to be happy and that she's sorry over everything. See, everyone loves you, Lisa says. She tells me that I just have to come here and then no one will run from me anymore. It will be good. Sounds nice. Fucking shit, fuck. I awoke around 2:15. After these hours of unsuccessfully lumbering from one bad position to the next, by the librarian gently touching me on the arm, which I would say was unnecessary. Crabby. As I finished watching Oliver Sacks, Willow thanked me for trusting her enough to sleep. Though I did have a dream about an actor, a play, a movie, I cannot say. But it was a performance centered around a drug which bifurcated the personality. It is some Freudian shit, some metaphor about the warring aspects of my uncertainty. Really? Willow asks. God, it's so much. Alistair tells me all is well. I can recall looking at the Annunciation and remarking how it is magnificent, with Annabella commenting to Willow, it's so dumb you would rather spend your time and offer the treasures of your body to jackasses who stare at their phones all day. Anyone who can get addicted to TikTok has no desire to see what's good in them flourish. I hear promises, protestations of remorse, desire for improvement and change. As I have nothing, as I see nothing, therefore I believe nothing. She says, I'll show you. You'll see. Says that she fucked up too bad, and I agree. But that she wants me to love her enough to be compelled to write once more. About her, she means. I say in reply, I have already shown a lifetime's worth of devotion. And in reply, I have received nothing but heartache and agony. I don't see the strength to right this ship even in myself, much less so in an antagonistic child with the body of Aphrodite. She gets something out of this, I know. That every time I sting her on the page, she sees some hideous part of her immortalized. It's not right, you're wrong, she says. I am ashamed of myself. I stood up and perused the stacks. Not much there. While walking to the bathroom, I heard, dream, 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 dream. Whenever I want you, all I have to do is dream. And Alistair tells me, don't worry, I know you're sick of her shit. All she has to do is be the woman she told you she was. Namely, to be in love with, be loving to me. And beyond that, she could just let me go to work and say, thanks, no thanks. And I would be cool. Alistair says, do you understand why? To which I reply, I see you are a loving father. And he thanks me. Took my second dose, a healthy one, and now I am obsessing over how I haven't had a shower in weeks. I know it doesn't matter. I shoot with Vanity Fairs next year, so they say. But it sucks wearing clean clothes over a dirty body. Guess I'll go smoke because I can. Back inside now. As I drift beyond the hypnagogic trance induced before and lingering after sleep, I recall I had another dream, in a library. A woman was very upset. I told her not to be, that I could be upset for both of us, and she broke down, as did I. My sub and unconscious are attempting to purge me of my coven. They occupy the greater part of me, and all refuse to speak a single word, even the one I know from beyond my literary intrigue with show business elites. I wonder if they found her. No, I'm assured that they are all witches, and having their professions in common, are prone to similar psychologies. Often while writing, I will be thrust violently out of the trance, and look up with each half of the pen held by each hand. And I will turn the pen in my left hand with my right, in contemplation of what has just been written, as well as the world at large. Adopting the posture now, Alistair says, yes, the journalist, this is how he sits in the courtroom. And I agree. The library is a single story with ugly brown and blue carpet squares designed with perpendicular lines throughout. Stacks dot either side of the centered information desk and computer array. From the main entrance looking towards the information desk, the non-fiction, as well as my personage, are on the right, including the works of Shakespeare, with fiction on the left. The classics section is an abysmal 2 shelves, wholly miserable. Their shelves are largely empty. Maybe someone in Bartlett has a refined literary palate, or maybe they are all backwoods hicks, and the collection of books is a reflection of that. I remember my sister's conversations yesterday after we spoke. First, she spoke with her eldest daughter about me, about how I wouldn't look up girls, which is true, I don't. And she began then to trust me. And her husband later said, you never know, Ethan's a charismatic guy. They'll all see. I'm told, they'll all see. Fucking fuck me. It is pouring out of me. 100 pages in these 3 days, maybe 4. Alistair tells me, you're a badass. And I do see it, the scope, the legend. But being the only one suffering, I am frustrated and worried by it all. Though I am assured I need not worry. I ask Clay if they're going to do another festival, to which he says, yes, dude, we're already working on it. To which I say, don't do it in Delaware. To which he says, it will be in Watkins Glen if possible. As I sit and attempt to watch Milton Friedman discuss the war on drugs and see the rain return with a vengeance, my family offer sage advice to go sleep under the awning of Kroger across the street. And while it will not be comfortable or dignified, I will be dry. I agree. Alistair tells me, don't worry, I know what you're thinking. That we're all leaving you to die. Not to dry, to die. I know that's what you're thinking. It's not true. You heard me earlier. You just have to endure. Of which I hear similar sentiments each day. And they all know how fucking easy it is for them to say it. They know too how much I've already suffered. The rain is severe, and I do worry I'll die on this pilgrimage. Don't worry, Alistair says, you won't. We're all watching over you. And I'm crying again. I would guess we all are. It is frightening. The uncertainty of tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. I thought of Elizabeth, and a fine turn of phrase she said some days ago in L.A. And when I told her so, she said, really, you're thinking about me? To which her mother said, he loves you. And I know, it's weird. And Lisa cut her off, saying, no, it's great, I love it, and Willow's coming around too. To which I said, you see how good she is to you? Willow comes back. She called me a miserable bitch yesterday. And I replied, were you not acting like one? Crickets. She finally says, yes, I know I was being one. I have these 3 hours inside. I am afraid to live in the rain. I am not primitive enough to exist in such raw conditions. The city of dihedral angles never rains. There is a consistency there. But here, back east, we are prone to more so prone more so to the chaotic whimsy of God. I must rest while I can. You really, Lisa asks me, think I'm not ugly? To which I emphatically reply, no, you're as beautiful as a woman can be, to me. I'm not sure how much my opinion is worth or means to anyone. She replies, it means everything. I'm so emotional right now because I have money and I could buy you a ticket. To which I say, there's nothing stopping you, unless there is. A pause before both fathers assure me, no one has ever conspired to keep anyone from me. To which she comments on how far away I am from the station, and I tell her not to worry about it. I'll stop there. All right. So, it's a lot of information in those pages. It's a novelization of my experiences, right, with Quentin Tarantino on the psychic frontier. I was outside of Memphis, Bartlett, Tennessee, which I walked all day, all the way through Memphis, right? From the north side to the south side. And then however many miles, Bartlett is like a suburb on the south side of Memphis, right? And so I stole the clothes in the morning from the Goodwill, right? And then spent the day in the library. I was laughing about the food because I feel like I remember when I was writing that, so that's funny. I feel like my breath was really rancid, garlic and cinnamon, and maybe not, I don't know, but it's funny. So everything that you heard, right, is Quentin's design. It's all bullshit, right? And you could say I'm not well, right? But what I'm saying, right, is that there's the ticket, right? That the way that he told me he wanted me to question him about cinema speculation is the same way, right, that he and the people around him led me to believe that I have a coven of witches that all love me. Right? That it's they're the same tactics. That's the point. Right? That he said, oh no, this guy thinks that he's like strong enough to deny me. Right? And so rather than see what's good in his life, right? Rather than look to that beautiful goddess of a wife, right? And they're Hollywood swingers, 100%. Right? But rather than see what's good in his life, see those two beautiful children that are devoted to him, that need him to survive, right? He doubled down and said, no, we're all going to focus on torturing this guy to compel him to madness, right? So that he'll get run over by an 18-wheeler on the side of the road, so that he'll put a bullet in his head, right? And then I can have the scene for free, right? And I'll be free of him. Right? And so, right, the reason that he's kicking off the film now is because he failed. Right? And all he can do is be evil. All of the evil that he stole from me, and I can't stress this enough, right? That if you go to that video of Plea to the Pope, right, it's all there, right? And that's in no way exhaustive, right? But like he stole that from me, right? Because I am wise. I know exactly what he's doing, right? That he's playing some bullshit subtle game, right? That's the same thing, right? The tactics that I espouse in that video of Plea to the Pope, right? Hearken to the same thing, right? That mind is the progenitor of all life, right? And so, right, to come back to the writing, I really love those pages. Again, I wrote 200 pages, 100 sheets, right, but front and back in like 4 days. Just writing. And this is how it works. And like this is how every writer will tell you, oh, a writer gets one shot like that, right, in their career, right? And so everything that he's done, right, has been, right, in an effort to make me die, right? He didn't do all of this for the two of us to be able to say, hey, buddy, how's it going? He could say, hey, how are you, buddy, right, for the last 20 years of his life. Right? Right? And so this is where my anxiety comes from, right? That it's a sick, right? It's a sick, palpable, evil condition between us, right? Right? And so we're talking about it. That's what's occurring. You know, I tried to sue. I suspect that something happened with the mail, right? And now I'm not working. I can't work anymore because of his evil, right? Because he thought that it was funny, right, to torture me with real black magic evil while I was working my job, right? I don't give a fuck what Quentin Tarantino does. If I cared what he did, right, I would have let him violate my mind at Tribeca. Right? Everything that's occurred here now, right, is him kicking himself over trusting me, over revealing himself to me and getting burned. Right? Right? And it's just like I said in my other video, there's no document, right? There's nothing there. There's nothing that I can point to and say, this is where he told me, because then I would have given him what he wanted. Right? That he didn't want to, right? He wanted to play this occulted psychic mind game. He wanted to say, oh, submit to me, right? I don't have to say anything to you because I'm famous and I can violate your mind as much as I want if you want to be in my movie. And that's true. That's true. Like, he makes the rules for his movies. I do not. It's unequivocal. I don't argue with that, right? But I opted out, right? I chose my side. Sorcery's done in the dark. Magic's done in the light, right? So I suppose I'll stop. I had originally an idea to do Hamlet, but since I mentioned the Scottish play, I suppose I'll do that one instead. She should have died hereafter. There would have been time for such a word. Tomorrow, and tomorrow, and tomorrow. Creeps in this petty pace from day to day, to the last syllable of recorded time. And all our yesterdays are blighted fools the way to dusty death. Out, out, brief candle. Life's but a walking shadow. A poor player who struts and frets his hour upon the stage and then is heard no more. It is a tale told by an idiot, full of sound and fury, signifying nothing. See what's good in your life. Know that life is not an accident, right? This channel exists, me coming out, exposing myself in the world in this way, not because I'm interested in fame. If I was interested in fame, I would have let him violate my mind in that moment because I would have been a movie star immediately. This is about me helping the world in an effort to save my life, right, by elevating all of our understandings, right? That I'm initiating everyone, I'm bringing us all up. It's time to liberate ourselves from the shackles of ignorance, right? Right? So, like, comment, subscribe, share, uplift your soul to God.